I had no idea the British press was so bigoted.
This one's wife. The cyber abuse hypocrites. The public hits back. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. You are likely aware that this one's wife and Harry are appearing in a CBS interview on Sunday morning. An excerpt from it was released yesterday, which appeared on social media, and I spoke about in relation to hypocrites on your TV. Essentially, it's all about cyber abuse. Apparently, the sage-like wisdom of the Duke of Sussex tells us that parents have to be first responders. Apparently, many parents don't know how to tell the signs of possible suicide. They are talking about how parents need to protect children from online harm. I dare say it's never occurred to any parents that that's something they should do, and I'm sure the world is relieved that a pair of grifters have come along to tell them, you need to protect your children from online harm. Apparently, this reflects on their own experiences with Prince Archie V and Princess Elizabeth III, which really does cause you to question, how on earth are they online? Why are they online? Surely they're far too young. Apparently, this one's wife stated in her usual breathy vocal fry, our kids are young. They're 3 and 5. They're amazing. But all you want to do as parents is protect them. Is that you protecting them when you're in Whistler, or in Jamaica, or in Portugal, or in Dusseldorf, or in Nigeria? Remind me, this one's wife, how are you protecting them from online harm when you're not even fucking there? You're a hypocrite. But we already knew that. She went on to state, and so as we can see what's happening in the online space, we know that there's a lot of work to be done there, and we're just happy to be able to be a part of change for good. So what are you actually going to do? You're going to engage in some moderation? You're going to go around and you're going to write a book about online safety? No. You're just going to sit in an interview, issue your fridge magnet platitudes, talk a load of shite, and then lap up the fuel that comes by way of response, and that's it. You're not going to provide anything meaningful. Now remember, this one's wife's narcissism causes her to believe that she's helping, makes her believe that she actually does care. But we all know that that's not the case because she's a narcissist. So this is what is planned, that they're going to appear on TV screens in the United States and no doubt send glass eyes to sleep around that great country by banging on about a subject that they're ill-equipped to talk about and that they're not experts. As I've said before, they're allowed an opinion, but it doesn't mean that it has any validity or weight. But what has been interesting is the public response to what they've said that they're going to do. And whilst they've often had their critics, the nature of what has been stated by way of response and the extent of what has been stated by way of response demonstrates there has certainly been a turning of the tide, a sea change in attitudes towards them from many people. Might this be as a consequence of what happened in relation to Pat Tillman, the debacle there? Quite possibly, because as I mentioned at the time, I am of the firm belief that many people who hitherto just thought not really interested in them started to think, do you know what? I don't like these too. And I think that those individuals that have started to realise they're not likeable have then started to scrutinise more of their behaviour, resulting in more people speaking out about it. Take, for example, the comment of Cooper, who writes, thanks to their own behaviour, they have taken away quite a few people their own children could have relied on as confidants in the future, maturing aunts, uncles, cousins, and long-term friends of their parents. Children rarely open up to their parents, no matter how bad the situation, because they either don't want to hurt them or they feel they won't care, depending on how close they are or not. It's usually someone a little removed who provides that support. That's an excellent observation that Cooper provides, and is demonstrative again of the self-absorbed nature of the gruesome twosome, that in pursuing their own interests of isolating members of their family on both sides, and you know that this one's wife has done that, driven by her narcissism, they have effectively cut their children off not only from getting to know those family members, but also denying them the opportunity to have meaningful relationships with people that might actually be able to help them in relation to the very topic that they're talking about. Once again, a collateral consequence of this one's wife's narcissism and the self-absorbed nature of the way that these two behave. Mad Madge writes, "Who on earth thought that these two were the perfect pair to preach on this particular subject? Surely there must be more appropriately skilled and informed individuals, including parents with first-hand experience." Another individual states, "I have said this many times before. They are not trained or professionals, and I think it is dangerous for them to spout all of this just to stay relevant. Leave it to the experts. They could do so much damage. As for their children, the nanny sees more of them than they do." Nonna Nelson writes, "My favourite part of the clip is Harry's face when she's talking." Somebody adds, "He can't look at her, and when he speaks she turns to look at him because she feels she ought to as she's being watched, but you can almost hear a groan of contempt from her as she does this." Brooklyn resident, "I hope parents with young children are consulting experts on this issue instead of listening to Harry and this one's wife. These are the same people who supposedly care about the environment, but take private jets everywhere." Then somebody else adds, "And deprive their kids of a relationship with their aunts, uncles, cousins, and all grandparents, bar one." Responser adds, "If Harry and this one's wife are worried about their own kids, then don't give them a mobile phone or computer. Generations of children have managed perfectly well without being constantly on social media. It is not a necessity like breathing or eating." Forest family, "What qualifies this pair to speak about such a serious issue? Shouldn't they leave it to experienced professionals with expert knowledge in the field? Tired hearing them lecture the rest of us on a plethora of subjects that they know no more about than the average person." Another adds, "Funny, the abusers themselves talking about people who abuse people. They just get more funny as they go along, these two. Pretty in Purple, oh dear. They're resorting to touring everywhere but when they both come from. A fall from grace on a massive scale." Lucy 30, "I'm a secondary school teacher and receive professional training on all these topics. Unfortunately, me and my professional colleagues only have Miss and Sir titles, so not important enough for tele-interviews. They have no clue what happens in the real world." The comments, and there are more than 2,500 of them, repeat the hypocrisy of these individuals, point out their lack of expertise, their lack of their specialism, the query how much they've been paid to go on the show, someone mentioning that they are the epitome of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The actual fact is, others highlight the fact that the Sussex squad are the most vicious bullies on social media, yet they do nothing about it. And once again, this embodies this one's wife's narcissism so spectacularly. It drives her to be sanctimonious about the issue of online safety and cyberbullying, whilst at the same time exposes her as a rampant hypocrite because she did nothing in relation to her sister-in-law, that she's done nothing to rein in the Sussex squad, and people see this, know this, and comment about it. Furthermore, her narcissism tells her that she's an expert in everything. As I mentioned earlier on, that no matter what she has to talk about, everybody should listen because it's meaningful and pioneering. But once again, because when she does speak, even her narcissism isn't that effective enough to give a passable imitation of somebody who knows what they're talking about, she's exposed. And people immediately recognise that she's not an expert. There isn't even the opportunity to give her the benefit of the doubt, because people know that she's not particularly talented nor intelligent. And thus, with her and him, they recognise their lack of expertise. But this is the problem with this one's wife, and it's typical of many narcissists, particularly those that are lesser and mid-range, that their narcissism continues to cause them to do certain things without due regard for what happens next. And this is why she keeps on failing. Because her narcissism says, go on and do an interview and talk about cyberbullying. If she had a voice of reason, but she hasn't, it would go, don't do that. You don't know anything about it. You're not an expert. Everybody knows that you're an expert, and that you're not an expert. You're not popular. You'll be viewed as a hypocrite because your supporters are nasty online. You didn't support Catherine. All you're going to do is set yourself up for a kicking. That's what the voice of reason would be saying to her. But she doesn't have one. Which means that she thinks, yep, great idea. I'll sit there and look sanctimonious and smug and preach, whilst most people watching are going, can you believe this woman? Can you believe the way that she behaves? And the answer is, of course we can, because those of you that have been imbued with the knowledge from my channel recognize that she behaves in this ridiculous manner whereby she doesn't read the room, doesn't have due regard for her lack of expertise, lack of talent, the fact that what she says is meaningless and dull, is all as a consequence of her narcissism. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.